Right, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinox Television, election observers or stakeholders converging here on the economic capital Douala have been strategizing on how to curb violence before, during and after election within the African continent. This is after studies have revealed that 1/4 of election in the African continent unfold in a tense atmosphere. We tell you about the meeting that is taking place in the economic capital Douala in this newscast. Also ahead, the United Nations reveal shocking figures on the number of displaced persons as far as the current socio-political crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of the country is concerned. Facts and figures published Tuesday, that was yesterday, say that 160,000 people have so far escaped from their respective homes in the northwest and the southwest regions. And in the second part of this newscast, we shall be receiving an actor of the civil society who is going to be telling us how he can provide or help the government provide solutions to the Anglophone crisis. Those are headlines. We shall be right back with the details. Stay with us. Good evening to you once again, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us. We are going to begin right in politics. The African Center for International Diplomacy, Economic and Strategic Studies has revealed that 25% of election within the African continent are violent. Election stakeholders are now mapping strategies to avoid or prevent violence before, during and after election. They converge on the country's economic capital Douala for that purpose. Babla Jonathan was part of the meeting. He tells us more in this report.
Over the years, opposition political parties and civil society organizations have decried fraud and other election malpractices in Cameroon. After a contested senatorial election, the election organizing body, Elections Cameroon, says it is working to improve the electoral process ahead of the presidential, legislative, municipal and perhaps regional elections expected this year.
The outcry is true, it's genuine, there are problems, there is no perfection. There is a process which needs to be ameliorated. We are working towards the amelioration of elections in Cameroon. There is no situation where there is total perfection. It's a process. We are working towards it. We left from Minat to Inyo, and now we are in the Lekam. So we are moving forward.
Local and international non-governmental organizations and friendly nations are also breaking new grounds to enhance the respect of democratic principles in Cameroon, a country where critics say is officially under a presidential system of government, but unofficially under a presidentialist system where everything is highly centralized on the presidency. One of such organizations helping to promote free, fair and transparent elections in Cameroon and other parts of Africa is the African Center for International Diplomacy, Economic and Strategic Studies. Participative dialogue on elections is one of the major instruments used by the organization to foster free, fair, transparent and above all peaceful elections in Cameroon and the rest of the African continent. It is for this purpose that election stakeholders met in Douala Wednesday.
This forum is to permit us to have a better eye view of all the problems that political stakeholders are going to explain to us here or put forward, because it's a system of participation, dialogue from both sides.
We have been working before. In December we supported the first meeting in Yaoundé, and during this meeting emerged several recommendations. Because if you want to organize a fair, transparent and effective election, you need to work before, during and after.
The main objective is to prevent the violence that often characterize elections in African nations.
This participatory dialogue can be viewed as a prevention mechanism, because as I said, 25% of elections in Africa are violent. So if we can have the opportunity, as the one we have today, to sit together, ELECAM, political parties, representative of administration, civil society, media, and talk about the forces, the strengths, and the weaknesses of our electoral process and see the way we can improve it, I think it is a major step.
In the meantime, question marks are hanging on the elections scheduled for this year in Cameroon. questions emanating from the deepening crisis hitting the northwest and southwest regions.
And on the current socio-political crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon, there was tension in Oshi, that is a village in Momo division of the northwest region of Cameroon today after unknown armed individuals stormed the police station and opened fire. It resulted to a gun battle amidst reports of casualties. Reports equally say that some forces were injured and others receiving treatment in hospital. KMER is still to return to the area after the incident this morning. And the number of people that have so far been displaced as a result of the unstable socio-political atmosphere in the northwest and the southwest regions has increased. According to the United Nations report published on Tuesday, that was yesterday, some 160,000 people are now in Nigeria, but the figures have simply been contested or is in sharp contrast with that of the Nigerian agency in charge of managing emergency cases. And just to add as well that Barrister Akere Mona, who is the coordinator of the Now Movement and presidential candidate in Cameroon, has actually sent a letter to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the current socio-political crisis rocking the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. In the letter dated the 14th of May 2016, Barrister Akere Mona was calling the United Nations or drawing the attention of the United Nations on the humanitarian crisis in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, indicating that several persons are now homeless, others seeking refuge in neighboring Nigeria, and some internally displaced within the national territory. Barrister Akere Mona has equally underscored the need for an inclusive dialogue to be given pride of place. We would surely be telling you more on that in our subsequent newscast. Now we talk about the difficulties that commuters are facing while plying the Douala-Bafoussam highway, the state of the roads that are extremely bad, the Lelem bridge in the Mongo division, which is in bad state, is a veritable nightmare to owners of vehicles. Details with Simanji Gabriel.
Movement of vehicles along the Lelem Mangete bridge in Mongo division of Cameroon's economic capital is slow. This is so because of the deep potholes found on the bridge, causing vehicles to drive at a slow pace. Many denizens of the area say the poor state of the roads has led to many accidents, and as a proof, the barricades along the roadside could testify. Natives of the area say the potholes couldn't have been this big if they were not abandoned by the government. The deplorable state of the zone has, however, pushed the mayor of Melon Council, Kiate Jean, to react, and as a preventive solution, laterite was brought to fill into the potholes, a thing that some road users have lauded.
For country, when road there, so if you don't get problem, to take key person, government no object it begin and they suffer. They don't already fix, and this time where accident never happen, I'll be very happy.
When rainfall for pass or happen, it's not easy. But now we they work, so at least motor they will pass fine. A good work.
But many have criticized the preventive move, saying that the soil will still be washed away in the heart of the rainy season, thus a waste of the limited resources.
We stay with you, Smart Njikan Gabriel, to talk about the number of people displaced as a result of the unstable socio-political atmosphere in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. According to the United Nations report that was published yesterday, 160 people are now in neighboring Nigeria and within the national territory. Details in this report.
According to the United Nations Humanitarian Department, there are a total of 160,000 people who have been displaced as a result of the Anglophone crisis. The report further states that the areas most hit by the forced migration include Kumba and Mamfe in the southwest region of Cameroon. Due to the excesses from the military and the separatist fighters, the population are now forced to run for their lives and at times without anything to survive on. Most of them either hide in bushes or other localities in very porous conditions. According to the report published Tuesday, some of those escaping from the troubled zones end up either being recruited by the activists or the military in the battlefront. Talking about refugees, the report stated that 20,000 Cameroonians have registered this far in Nigeria. Nationals who have escaped from the war zone in the northwest and southwest regions. The number, however, differs from the 34,000 registered by the Nigerian agency in charge of managing emergency cases. This number are all seeking refuge in the Cross River state of Nigeria. As the government, international organizations and non-governmental organizations continue to mobilize on how to bring the displaced and refugees back home, the condition on the ground remains critical.
And Smart Njikan Gabriel, the reporting now, Muslim faithfuls here in the economic capital Douala and across the national territory began observing the period of the Ramadan. That was today. The 1 month period of the Ramadan is marked by prayers and fasting, and it is observed worldwide as enshrined in the Holy Quran. The annual observation is one of the 5 important pillars of Islam. The fasting would last for 29 to 30 days depending on the visual sightings of the crescent moon. Imams here in the city of Douala have cautioned faithfuls to pray for peace, live in unity and cultivate the spirit of solidarity. And on to something else, the National Communication Council has called for the strict respect of the ethics and deontology of the journalism profession. Peter Esokaine released today told media professionals to ensure that media contents do not jeopardize the peace and security of the country, especially as Cameroon is bracing to celebrate the 20th of May. That's going to be Sunday this weekend. Meantime, the general manager of Equinox Television and Radio has urged distinguished journalists and presenters of the media outlet to work harder towards receiving more awards from national and international organizations. He made the call during the presentation of awards decorated over 10 journalists and presenters by media groups for their quality programs, bravery and decency. Let's have the details with Innocent Aze.
Okay. They were at least 10 journalists and TV presenters received by the general manager of Equinox Television and Radio, Severin Chunke, for their outstanding work that attracted awards from different institutions and organizations. Each of the laureates at different intervals presented their awards to Severin Chunke and received a message of congratulations. Parole de Femme, presented by Julinga Nyonde, was awarded Best Gender Program of the year 2017 by the Consumers Foundation in Cameroon.
Ça fait beaucoup plaisir et on compte donner le meilleur de nous-mêmes, continuer à travailler dur pour pouvoir être meilleur parmi les meilleurs.
Flavienne Valot Ndongo won the prize of Best Health Magazine Program from Focaco. Esther Mael, on her part, won 2 distinct prizes. One as Best Female Animator from Mediatude, an online press organ. Mediatude still awarded her with the prize of Best Dressed Presenter.
Je pense que c'est quelque chose de naturel, une cérémonie qui récompensait les meilleurs.
On the other hand, Cadence Matinale, presented by Gladys CJ, was awarded Best Breakfast Program by Mediatude.
Félicitations. Je vous ai vu en Turquie l'autre jour.
Mediatude crowned This Does Le Zénith Best Program broadcast from 10 a.m. to noon. The same media dude also decorated Eric Kwamo, presenter of Regard Social, Best Journalist of the Year 2017. Elsewhere, the Scoop Media awarded Mimi Mefo as Best Female Journalist of the Year 2017 in Cameroon. Her second award came from Fokako, projecting her as Best Female TV Presenter in 2017 in Cameroon. Meantime, Equinoxe Television and Radio received the award of the Most Objective Media Organization in 2017 from the Scoop Media Group.
Notre leitmotiv, c'est rendre compte. Et on ne peut rendre compte que de ce qui est. Même dans nos analyses, nous devons faire attention et faire l'effort d'être le plus objectif possible.
For the workers, the general manager congratulated them but notified them that more challenges lie ahead and urged them to work harder.
Congratulations on your award to all of you. I want to make sure that next year you will be the best of the best.
For Mimi Mefo, the general manager told her to follow the footsteps of Christiane Amampo of CNN.
I intend you female journalists be like this female journalist, American journalist called Christiane Amampo, and she used to work very hard.
The presentation of these awards to the general manager of Equinoxe Television and Radio ended with a group picture.
We now talk about indecent dressing in Lum of the Mongo Division, littoral region of Cameroon. To some youths, it is a way to look good and admired by some girls and boys. They say that they are children of the Android generation. Let's see how youths of the Android generation are dressing in Lum of the Mongo Division with Innocent Aza once again.
They are youths in Lum Mungo Division of the littoral region. Unlike their peers all over the National Triangle, they do not need to dress decently because they have been baptized children of the Android generation. Wearing tight-fitting trousers and skirts, mini shorts, short dresses or gowns, torn jeans termed destroy, and lowering of trousers below the buttocks remain alarming. To the youths, it is not an act of moral decadence, but a way to look charming.
De nos jours, quand un garçon n'est pas chaud, il n'est pas regardé par les femmes.
The boys dress as such to look charming in the eyes of girls. They copy these dressing modes from celebrities on TV.
Et c'est là que nous tirons notre inspiration pour, n'est-ce pas, blaser les autres personnes.
These forms of dressing have extended to the school milieu, where school authorities battle on daily basis with students to eradicate the wearing of tight-fitting skirts and trousers on campus.
The problem of dressing with especially boys who have tight trousers, which they commonly call slim. Girls too are getting interested with the short skirts, but the school internal rules and regulations are against this practice. So we systematically send away boys whose trousers are too tight for them to move freely around, and the dimension of the skirts of the girl is obligatorily to be above below the knee rather. So we are having it as a problem, but systematically we send away students whose uniforms are not within the prescribed norms in our school.
Blame has been shifted to parents.
The parents somehow are to blame because the child leaves the house with these attires to come to school. It's true that we've discovered some parents who did not recognize their son's trousers to be the way they made them, but we've discovered that there are some hawkers who move around with their sewing machines, and these children give them 100 francs to reduce the legs of their trousers, and sometimes parents are surprised to discover that the trouser of their son is not the way the tailor made it. So we are trying to bring parents in to help us fight against this abnormal dressing that is invading our school system.
Other city dwellers blame the government and youth for incivility.
Le civisme que vous voulez prôner, c'était à votre époque.
Government had for some time embarked on a fight against this phenomenon, but later killed effort in destroying the mini clothes which exposed labs, breast, stomach and backs of girls who ought to have their bodies covered.
Indecent dressing in loom of the Mongo division of Cameroon among youths, and how teachers, parents as well as the society are coping with it there, compiled by Innocent Aze. They're bringing us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Points. Stay with us. Tonight, as I indicated, we are going to be having a civil society actor as guest in this edition of the news, Mr. Lapana Tasha. Mama, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Good evening, Meme. I'm very grateful to be with you.
Well, thank you so much for coming. You have written an article indicating or stating that you could possibly propose solutions to the current socio-political crisis in Cameroon. Can you tell us more about that?
Cameroon is a country blessed by God, but have been corrupted and embezzled by many people, wicked as I call them. And then since 2006, I've been putting things in order, not thinking that something of this nature will come. I was facing the corruption, but finally I found myself without publishing it in the midst of other Anglophone problems. So I came up with a proposal, is saying concerning the Anglophone problems. The first, I have two proposals. The first was to the government, in which I never have the opportunity to send it out to the appropriate quarter. And then the second, now because of the level and the tension in the two Anglophone regions, I came up with a proposal that it is our country. Cameroon is our country, and we cannot sit there and then a group of people will spoil the country while we are there hoping and looking forward for people who are killing us to propose a solution to it. We are the one. The two people who are fighting, the Anglophones are fighting, and the government. And then within, in between, there are people that are called the neutral people that are not involved in it, because not all the territories are involved in the crisis. And then these people I propose to, and then I'm writing an article to all those I consider, and then I wish them to also propose to me those who are credible, who are trustworthy, who are competent to handle this nation, because there are people in this nation that can handle the problems. Those that the Anglophones trust in it, because the government cannot stand anywhere now to say something or to call for any sincere or any dialogue.
Especially in the
so I propose, my first proposal goes to the men of God, and then some Cameroonians that are trustworthy, to create a neutral body in these nations and call the government, not waiting for the government, because any organization or any person going out to solve the Anglophone problem that have any link with the government, that person cannot be trusted.
Before we talk about the role of the church, because the International Crisis Group actually cited the Catholic Church as the only neutral and credible body that can be able to handle the crisis. You said that the President of the Republic did not respond immediately as soon as the crisis started or escalated in November 2016. That is why we are where we are. And today you are talking about the solution when things are the way they are in the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. Do you think that a solution is possible at this point in time?
The solution is very possible. Even with the government, even with the president, the solution can. Because the issue started since on the 8th of December 2016 up to today. The president have not maybe organized even a press to even say the word concerning the Anglophone problems. And then now I consider that there is in any situation there is an opportunity.
He has addressed the Anglophone problem in his end of year speeches. He talked about it in November. Is that not enough?
No, that is, you cannot take an opportunity for a different occasion to address a different occasion and to address a situation that is touching lives. Because the Anglophone problem have pushed many of our brothers, many of our sisters are begging, grandparents, those who cannot even see, are begging along the street in Nigeria. Some are in the forest, they don't have a house to stay. But the government and the president is there, and he has never maybe a day, say, I want to address the Anglophone problem in particular. For me, I propose that to him, it is an opportunity for him to see those that have been supporting him, have been giving him motion of support that he has never seen. He has neglected the nation because staying in power for 35 years. It is an opportunity for you to stand as the best person to explain that nation, or the corner of the nation.
Do you think that addressing the problem is sufficient enough?
Now, like this, addressing the problem, talking about the problem is not. For me, I propose that the government or the president of the Republic of Cameroon should go up. Because why quite remember, in history, they talk about the problem that was in the KNDP. When Fonjan was to move to Yaoundé as vice president. Amadou Ahidjo and Augustin Gunja, there was a problem between them. And then Ahidjo did not remain in Yaoundé. He went down to Buea to reach for himself the political thermometer. And then it is an opportunity for the president of the republic to go down, not to Buea, not to Bamenda, but to those villages that have been burnt down, and see for himself, to go to Nigeria and see for himself his people that are there. That is my cry, and that is the only, if the president carry his or the government and went down to and go down to Buea, to those areas, this problem will have a solution.
Like you said, the crisis is escalating. Since 2016, at this point in time, several villages have been razed completely. Many people are homeless. Several English-speaking Cameroonians in neighboring Nigeria, others displaced even within the national territory. But the government has not reacted to that. What does that mean, looking at?
Looking at that, to me, is that the government of Cameroon, through our life, have been solving problems in this nation in a political way. They believe that when you remain hungry and then you see food, you remain silent. But that is how they wanted to tackle the Anglophone problems. But they went that way, it failed. And then they still believe in that. Villages are down, people are, the problem is, because we are talking now, every day we are hearing about new villages that have been burnt down. Just now we are hearing about the Mumu divisions. And then we don't know, here in Douala, something can happen. We are about to celebrate the national unity. That is the marriage, the wedding that came between the Anglophones and the Francophones. And then we, at this particular period, we are, what are we celebrating? I'm saying that all those villages, we cannot be celebrating. Why others are not, they don't even have food to eat. Why others are in pain? Why others are crying? Why others don't have even opportunity to bury it? They lost one. So I look into it, that all the government have to do something. If the government cannot do something, we will not remain silent. And that is why I propose that there should be a neutral body that is free from government.
And that neutral body, according to you, should be the church.
It should be the church, and there are some people I talk about. I have been following up your programs here. I see people like Akun John, many of them. At the Davidson, those are people that they have ideas. But the idea, there is no way to bring it up. But if those people gather themselves together, the Kali Church cannot do it alone.
But the Kali Church has been holding meetings. In their series of meetings, they have been providing solutions to the Anglophone crisis. Do you think that their solutions, their proposed solutions, can be listened to?
The solution I'm talking about is not a writing to the government for the government to respond. It is to take over power. Take over power, take a neutral body that we are out to solve this problem. Until this problem is solved, before the government will do, military should stop harassing people. And for now, we have to look into it. They goes into the Anglophone region, they select those that are very concerned with the problems, the pillar of the leaders of the Anglophone problems, and then bring them out, call the government should come.
Are you saying that with the current regime, the crisis cannot be solved?
With the current regime, they cannot solve. They started the problems, and then there is no way up to now. If they cannot solve the problem, I don't believe they can solve the problem up to now.
What equally gives you the confidence that your proposal can push through?
What gives the confidence I have is that when, for example, I take example EQUINOXE. When you sit somewhere and you talk about, I listen to news about this Anglophone problem, they first of all ask you why, which station. When you mention some kind of station, they just say, but when you mention EQUINOXE, people say the Anglophone themselves, they say, okay, they can listen to. When now with these Anglophone problems, there are people that if they say, okay, we have something to say, and then the Anglophone looking through those people discover that those people have not been influenced by the government, they will listen to them. But what I'm saying here is the Catholic Church, they have proposed that they have been praying, they have been proposing to the government, but they are waiting for the government. Two people cannot be fighting. And then you want somebody amongst the two to come up with a solution. No, there must be somebody, neutral person. The government is the elderly person to the Anglophone people. And then the government as the elderly person cannot solve the problem up to this particular period. It means that they need somebody
to
standing in
that is why the international community too is being urged to look into the crisis. On several occasions we have seen the United Nations reacting. We have equally seen some international dignitaries talking about the Anglophone crisis. The most recent action is that of Akerimone that has actually written to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, calling on the UN scribe, calling on the UN scribe to look into the situation in the two Anglophone regions of the country. Do you think that it can yield some fruits?
For me, we are more than 50 years old as we gain the independence of this nation. And then up to this particular period, we cannot handle our problems alone. The international body, even the Commonwealth Secretary General came to Cameroon, passing through Yaoundé. All the international body, if you listen to what the American US ambassador said yesterday, that they are waiting for somebody to invite them. And then who is to invite them? The government. If the government invited, the government have to give them the agenda to follow. So all those international bodies, I am proposing that the government, that we are neutral, we have not yet been touched by the problems, should gather ourselves, those trustworthy people, should gather themselves together. Those churches,
without the actors involved,
yes, without the government involved, without the Anglophones involved, call them together and say this is how it is, and then give them a time period.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lapanatasha Mama, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
I'm grateful.
Thank you so much. An actor of the civil society there, giving solutions to the current socio-political crisis rocking the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. They're bringing us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Viewers, we thank you so much for joining us once more. Good evening.